Nebraska is hosting a bunch of brand new big time transfers for visits over the next couple days. So in today's video, I'm going to go over who these guys are, what they bring to the table, and everything you need to know, along with an update around Nebraska's biggest targets and what's going on there. So really quick, we have a massive Nebraska transfer portal update. Make sure to hit that like button. And also, if you're unsubscribed and a diehard Nebraska fan, now is the time to subscribe. I post daily Husker football content, transfer portal updates, recruiting updates, breaking news, whatever you want, I got you covered. So subscribe for transfer portal content that you're going to get nowhere else here on Nebraska YouTube. But without further ado, let's get into it. Going over the update, Nebraska is set to host a bunch of brand new transfers on campus over the next couple days. But before I get into that, let's go into an update around some of Nebraska's biggest targets and some unfortunate news. It was announced last night that Eric Rivers committed to Georgia Tech out of the blue. And then to add insult to injury, Nyziah World, the offensive tackle, committed to Oregon. A lot of people were asking how this happened, especially the Eric Rivers one, because Eric Rivers looked very good for Nebraska, according to almost every single person around that situation. I'll give you the answer. Do you guys want to know the answer on why Nebraska didn't get these two guys? It was an NIL thing. 100% I have it under good authority that Georgia Tech outbid Nebraska when it comes to NIL, and we already know that Oregon outbid Nebraska. That isn't shocking. Georgia Tech has more NIL than Nebraska. I know that's shocking to maybe some of you guys, but it's not shocking to people who follow recruiting. Georgia Tech got a 5-star in this year's class. They gave him a multi-million-dollar deal. Listen, and this is my whole thing with Nebraska NIL. Okay, we need to have a tough conversation. Nebraska's NIL is good. I'm not disputing that. It's a good NIL. You can beat out teams like Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois when it comes to our NIL. We can't beat out the best of the best for our NIL. And because of that, we can't typically get the best of the best players. We can't beat out Georgia. We can't beat out Texas, Georgia Tech, Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan. Heck, we can't even beat out Texas Tech and Baylor. If you've been following the transfer portal, those two teams have been lining it up because they have alumni who are billionaires who are feeding their program millions of dollars. We don't have that for some reason. So Texas Tech has stolen a couple guys from us. Cole Wisnowski is another name. So I could talk about this all day. Nebraska's NIL has been good in the portal, but we got outbid for Eric Rivers. Okay, Georgia Tech wasn't even on his radar. They scheduled a visit last second. They gave him 7 figures. That's why he committed. Same deal with Nyziah World. He's getting 7 figures. Whatever. I could talk about this all day, but that's my answer to why those two committed. Again, our NIL is good, not great. If you think otherwise, you're wrong. You're wrong. It's a good top 20 NIL. It's not top 15. It's not top 10. And that's why we can't beat out these programs, especially in the transfer portal. Rarely we can beat out these programs in recruiting and high school recruiting. But when we're talking about the transfer portal, almost every single one of these guys cares about money above everything else. Why wouldn't they? They're almost going to go to the NFL. So listen, that's my whole spiel there. It sucks. I was mad about losing Rivers. Wasn't too shocked about Nyziah World. But the good thing is we got a lot of guys coming on campus to replace these guys. Let's get into it. First guy I want to talk about is on that offensive line. He goes by the name of Ka'Lele Famoa. I might have butchered that name. He's the number 2 offensive tackle in the transfer portal. Now, Nyziah World's the number 1. This guy is the number 2. He was on a visit yesterday for Nebraska, coming out of Washington State, listed at 6'5", 315 pounds. Just, a strong, powerful offensive tackle, great push in the run game, pretty solid in the pass pro. Guy who would, if he were to go to the NFL draft, he would be a 3rd round, 4th round draft pick. So already pretty good. 1 year of eligibility remaining, and once again, he visited Nebraska yesterday. Also expected to visit LSU and a couple other schools. So, listen, Nebraska got a pony up here. He's going to get a pretty penny just like Nyziah World did. If you want a good offensive tackle, you're going to have to literally pay upwards of 7 digits. That's just the way it is in the transfer portal, okay? Put up or shut up. If you want him, you got to go do that. But this is a really good tackle. Again, number 2 in the portal. Has a lot of really good offers from SEC programs. Let's hope we can get him because he's interested in Nebraska. He likes Donovan Raiola. We know that Polynesian connection there. So hopefully we can land him. He was on campus yesterday. Keegan Tross was also on campus yesterday. I talked about him in yesterday's video. Again, that's a guy who's just a good starting tackle. Comes from Wake Forest. Nothing new there. But again, I told you guys about him in yesterday's video. Let's move on. Then we have a new name on the radar. So the Washington State player was a new name. This is absolutely a new name. He goes by the name of Sam M. Pemba. He was coming out of the class of 2023, was a borderline 5-star recruit, committed to Georgia. He played in 10 games as a true freshman. This year for the Bulldogs, only played in 4 games to preserve his red shirt. Really not too much stats. He played on special teams, but, we're talking about a guy 2 years with Georgia, didn't really get on the field too much, didn't make too much of an impact, but definitely has a high ceiling as almost a 5-star recruit 2 years ago. So listen, if we were to get him, he's just purely a good edge rusher, good potential. Listen, at 6'3", 250 pounds. Him being at that Georgia program for 2 years would be very good for his development, to be around those top tier players and coaches. So it is a little bit of a gamble given the fact that he really hasn't produced throughout his career. I mean, you look at the stat sheet, there's really nothing there, but he did play in ball games. He did play on special teams. And we'll see if Nebraska lands him. He will be on campus, I believe, tomorrow, or he's going to be on campus today for the Huskers. So that's a guy who's on our radar, borderline 5-star recruit, has some decent offers in the transfer portal. But again, kind of just a high upside. If we could get him, he's a high upside guy, but there's a low floor too. Like, he could be a bust, or he could really pan out and be as good as, a lot of people were thinking out of high school. So that is a new name on our radar. Then I want to give you guys an update around DANE Key. Now, I reported a couple days ago, things weren't really looking good for Nebraska. Georgia is the heavy favorite in this process. Now, I'm happy to report that DANE Key is still going to be coming on a visit. He will be here on Friday throughout the weekend. So that is a pretty big development, and Nebraska is at least going to get him on campus for a visit. Now, Georgia's the team to watch out for. Ole Miss was in the mix as well. He wanted to visit there earlier this week. Ole Miss took 2 receivers already in the portal. I don't know if they're going to take 3. So for that reason, I don't know if Ole Miss is still in the process here. But DANE Key is visiting this weekend. Nebraska got to land this guy. You got to land this guy. You missed out on Eric Rivers. You missed out on Deuce Robinson. Let's just get DANE Key. Let's pony up. Offer some NIL, but Georgia's the big team to watch out for. I still think he's going to land with Georgia, but the fact that he's held off this long and will still visit Nebraska is definitely a good sign here. So want to mention that around DANE Key. Again, you guys are already familiar with this guy, 6'3", 700 yards last year for Kentucky. Pretty solid receiver, good run after catch ability. Nyziah Hunter is on campus currently with Nebraska. He just got in town last night at about 11 p.m. He landed in Omaha. Again, really solid player, 600 yards last year. He was Cal's Ja'Cory Barney. It's us or Kansas State. And honestly, I'm going to tell you this. Number one, Kansas State got a transfer wide receiver yesterday. So I don't know how much they really are in this process anymore. They're still going after him. That's number one. Number two, if we can't beat out Kansas State for a wide receiver transfer, oh my gosh, I'm going to be so angry. It's one thing to lose a guy to Oregon, lose a guy to Georgia Tech. They got money. Kansas State does not have more money than us. Okay, pony up, pay Nyziah Hunter. This guy's a really good talent. Again, 6'2", 600 yards, really good hands, really good speed, very quick run after catchability. Nyziah Hunter, I want him as bad as anybody in the portal. So he's on campus today. Hopefully Nebraska locks him down and says, hey, you got to sign today. Sign the papers before you leave. We want you to sign with Nebraska and not visit Kansas State. So there's an update around Nyziah Hunter. 2 other guys I want to talk about in this video. Andrew Marshall just wrapped up his visit with the Huskers yesterday. Again, one of the better corners in the transfer portal, 2 years of eligibility remaining. Again, just really solid player, man-to-man corner. He really liked his visit. He did not sign the paperwork yesterday, so I'm sure he's going to continue to consider his options. But I like where Nebraska stands. I expect the Huskers to land him. And then last but not least, Adrian Maddox will be on campus, I believe, Friday through Saturday. Just a really hard-hitting safety. When you watched him on film, I actually really loved his film. Like, he gives me Cam Chancellor vibes. You guys are familiar with that safety from the Seattle Seahawks. Like, this dude will lay the boom on just about anybody. 1 year of eligibility remaining. Honestly, pretty good at pass coverage. He had 7 passes defended last year. So he'll be on campus as well for the Huskers. So wanted to give you guys another update. He is still coming on a visit. Watch out for Arkansas in that process. All right, guys, that's the update around who's coming on campus pretty much today and Friday. I'm sure there's going to be some more names that trickle in for this weekend, and this is going to be a big weekend for the Huskers. But, I'm really frustrated about losing Eric Rivers, really frustrated about losing Isaiah World. Like, it's an NIL thing, man. It really is. I know some people are going to be like, oh, NIL's ruining the sport. I don't think so, but Nebraska got to get better at NIL. Like, again, we have a fine NIL collective. People are going to come in the comment section and say, our collective's fine, Wilson. It's fine. It's not great. We are constantly getting beat out by teams like Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State. We're getting beat out by Baylor currently, Texas Tech currently. Listen, we have a top 20 collective, top 10. If you want to be a really good program, you got to bump up that NIL collective. And who are the teams that we constantly battle in recruiting? We don't battle Wisconsin and Iowa much in recruiting. You know who we battle? Alabama, Georgia, Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State. If you want to get these good players, you got to bump up that NIL. And I don't know. We don't have a billionaire who's feeding our program like Georgia does, like Texas Tech does, like Baylor does, like Ohio State. Like, why can't any of our alumni give us a bunch of money? Whatever. I could talk about this for days. I think our NIL is fine, but man, that's the reason you lost out on Eric Rivers. If you want the answer, that he got 7 figures, we weren't offering 7 figures. We were offering a good amount of money, not as much as Georgia Tech, and that's the same thing with Isaiah World. We were never going to beat out Oregon when it comes to money. That's just the way it is. And also, people who will say in the comment section, Wilson, these players who care about money first, they shouldn't be here at Nebraska. Their heart's not in it, or something along those lines. 99% of transfers care about money the most. All of these guys just mentioned care about money the most, as they should. They're about to go to the NFL. They're probably 1 year away from it. They care about money. It is what it is. They're adults. We got to pony up if we want to have a good football team. That's just the way modern day college football is. Adjust or die. All right, guys, that's my thoughts around what's going on. Some new names. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Hey, if you made this far in the video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. As always, folks, go Big Red, go Matt Rhule, and see you in the next one.